Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to RC Video Reviews on Friday, July 26th. July is almost over. We're heading into the dog days of summer. August, man, I'll tell you what. We went flying on the weekend and it was hot. It was hot. The temperature said 96, but AccuWeather said we had a real feel of 110 degrees. And brother, let me tell you something. It was hot out there. So when we filmed that video that you're watching right there, we were roasting. It was hot out. And by the way, that might be part of the reason for one of the problems I'm going to talk about tonight. We'll get into that a little bit later. So on the first game, Hobie basically slam dunked everybody in first by a stretch. And he also got the first on the like button. And then Dan Griffiths is here. How you doing, Dan? Glad to see you. Pterodactyl says, I may not be first, but I'm back from the replays. That's good. Catching it live. Very nice. Johnny Stansel says, hello, good evening, everyone, he says. Bill Cox is here. How you doing, Mr. Bill? Good to see you, my friend. And Wowsy says, good evening. And Robert, family camping weekend. Everybody have a great weekend. Well, that's good, Robert. I hope you have a good time, man. Let your hair down and relax. Enjoy yourself. So Freddie made it. Good you made it, Fred. Hey, Fred's working on a Nexus configuration. He's getting involved. It's going to happen. And he got to see, Fred actually helped me do some of the tuning on the weekend too, on the Nexus too. That's the Raw 700 flying. That's such a beautiful helicopter. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. If you check in, if you join the video, the live stream, make sure you say hello in the live stream so we know who's here. Say hello in the chat. Like to keep an eye on who's joined us for the evening. And anyway, let's get into it. We have a little bit of a weekend review to do, and then we'll get into some content. And I have some interesting material this week, so we have plenty to get through. First off, weekend review, we did the Nexus tuning, and that's kind of the video, the sidebar right there that you're seeing. I flew 3 helicopters this weekend. I did the Raw 700, the Raw 500, and the Competition 420. And we did tuning on all of those. So it was really a weekend to do tuning. We spent a lot of time working on the tail, working on the PIDs, kind of experimenting a little bit with things like the stop gain. And, the real reason for all of that is to get familiar with the platform, to understand, how does it work? What do you do? What knobs do you twist in order to get things to work? And then, of course, with the helicopters, you really want the configuration to be right. You want it to look good and fly right and all that. So really, it was a great opportunity over the weekend to do some tuning. And then Dave brought his Chaos out, which is right there, the trusty old Chaos. That's a lovely airplane. I had one of those and always enjoyed flying it, but I just kind of outgrew it a little bit. It's a great sport plane, great introductory pattern plane, and it flies some really nice maneuvers. Dave does really well with that plane. He can do, the slow rolls and the 4-point turns and the knife edges. And, it's a nice plane. It's just a good quality base plane. And I'd strongly recommend that one, especially if you're in that point in the hobby where you need good visibility, you need something big that's substantial so you can see it, but you also don't want to spend a lot of money. That's a really good solution. And the hardware doesn't have to be crazy expensive either. Dave's using those, what are they, the HK or HX 5010 servos or something, like $5. They're full size, like 45 gram servos. They're $5. Now they're not, overly strong. They're not overly fast, but they do the job in that plane. So $5 for the servos. So yeah, it was good. And then the heli tuning, we did that. And then Fred got out and did a little ripping with his OMP M2. And it's always fun to watch Fred do that. He does crazy stuff with his M2. It's fun to watch. FL Engineer, man, where you been? Tim comes in and says this is a heli channel now. We missed you, man. It's good to see you again. Flyer Mikey's here too. Patrick Henry is here. Hi, everyone. RC you next Tuesday. RC you next Tuesday. Clever. Evening. How's it going? He says. And let's see. Did I miss anybody? Henry A. Good day, everyone. Tim, man. No, it's good to see you, dude. I'm glad you're back. It's not a heli channel, but, we kind of move around. You got to ebb and flow a little bit. And the helis, there's a little bit of a heli influence going on because the Nexus is new. We want to touch on that. They're refreshing some of the product line that's out there right now. So, you know how it goes. You kind of move around a little bit. You ebb and flow. I did a lot of fixed wing stuff in a row, no heli stuff. So I figured I'd give the heli guys a little love. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's that. So back to the weekend review. Then we did the Radiomaster Boxer Crush. I feel so bad about that because I saw a comment. The guy goes, great, right after I bought my Boxer. And, here's the sad truth that a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they'll tell us about these things ahead of time and they'll say, hey, here's the material. They send the hardware out so we can do the review videos and get those together. And when they're doing that, they say, don't release information until this date. And that's just part of the deal. You know, if you want to be in the club, you have to respect that, right? If you release information before their planned release, then that, to me, that's not okay to do. So we're kind of under an obligation not to release information. And I always feel bad when somebody goes out and buys something right before release. You know, it's kind of one of those deals. It's sad. But, you know, maybe you could put it out there for sale. You might not get all your money back, but maybe you can get 80% of it, maybe 70% of it back, and, you know, spend a little bit more and get the upgrade. You know, that's a bummer, but nice little radio. We're going to talk a little bit about the Boxer. I've got a segment for that tonight, so we're going to spend some time on that Boxer. Next up was the Understanding the SD card tips and tricks. And again, you know, I'm making reference videos, so I'm trying to get some material out there that's referenceable. And my hope is that when you guys are out there in your travels, when you're out on RC groups or HeliFreak or on Facebook or wherever, and somebody asks some questions about, hey, you know, I don't understand how the SD card works. That's a good reference video. You know, you should bookmark those more generic reference videos and save those so you can say, oh, there's a video here you could watch that'll help you understand the SD card. I know for those of you who follow the channel, especially if you watch my EdgeTX tutorials, most of the material you probably have seen at one point or another, but I put that one together to be a resource for, you know, a generic resource, not necessarily on task. It's not about solving a particular problem, but just understanding how the radio operates in general. So that's the purpose of that one. And then also, while we're on the subject, the next video was the Radiomaster Nexus using your setup on different helicopters. I'm going to tell you guys, if you are looking at Nexus, and by the way, this applies for iNav and Betaflight as well. So if you fly quads or iNav, the techniques in that video work just the same. It's just the same for iNav and Betaflight because it's really the same platform, right? It's got variations on a theme. You know, it's for helicopters versus fixed wing or quads, but the way you operate the platform is the same. It's got the same commands in the CLI. It's got the same type of diff files that you can use, and the concepts apply no matter which platform you're flying, whether it's helicopters, fixed wings, or quads. So if you are not into helicopters, but you are into iNav and Betaflight, you might want to watch that one. I'm just saying. You might want to go take a look. Don't be a non-heli snob. Go look. And then, of course, the PilotJam. That's what was up next. So Wasim Mata says, helis are cool. I agree. Helis are cool. I like them, man. They're fun. It's a fun little change. You know, I know a lot of guys, they'll say things like, oh, I got out of the hobby for a few years. Well, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of the hobby because I fly all kinds of different stuff. You know, sometimes I take out like just a bash or like a stick or a chaos or something and just go cruising around, you know, just a foamy and just relax. And sometimes I take out the helicopters and I stress myself a little bit. Sometimes I take out a big airplane and I try and tumble it and do 3D maneuvers and learn new tricks with that. So it's just a way to keep it all interesting. You know, there's a lot of branches, and I know a lot of guys do surface stuff. You know, surface guys are out there too, and they like the cars and the buggies and the trucks. Nothing wrong with it, man. It's all good. It's all RC. So we're all big happy family here. That's the way I look at it. Okay, that's it for the week in review. So we can move on to content. And the first thing I'm going to tell you guys, I am beyond excited about this. I got an internet upgrade. They finally brought fiber into the neighborhood. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but I was able, as a result of getting fiber, which now has synchronous upload and download. I have synchronous 2 gig up and down. Now, of course, we don't hit that on the computers. You know, the wireless is overhead and framing and all that stuff. But religiously from the fiber modem, I see 2 gigs. And then from my desktop, I normally see about 1,400 megs up and down. So what that means is that I have new connectivity. Hopefully, if you haven't noticed it, I am running 4K as a stream right now. I'm seeing excellent connection, and I've upgraded the bit rate from 14 kilobits, which was just the bare minimum to be able to do 4K, all the way up to 35 kilobits, which is a strong, that's like the top end for 4K on a live stream. So my hope is that the video quality on the live streams improves. That's my main objective. And also, it makes my life a little better when I'm uploading videos too, because the upload speed went from like 25 megabits up to 1,400 megabits up. So massive upgrade in upload capabilities for the channel. and it cost me less money. That was the beauty of it. So I got an upgrade, a lot more upload bandwidth and less money, and I don't have any upload download limits either on this service. So we'll see how it works. It's the first week with it. We're going to try it out and hopefully it works. But I wanted to let you guys know, hopefully in the live streams, you'll see an improvement in the video quality because I'm running a much higher bit rate now. Much higher, double at least. Okay, so that's it for the internet upgrade. Just want to make you guys aware of that. And then the next thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about this raw 580 in front of me. But I wonder if anyone noticed that in the startup sequence, I didn't have that crazy jump that I used to have. You know, it went from the music on the intro screen and would jump to the blackboard and I'd go back to the intro and it'd play the little intro riff and then to the desktop. I may have solved that problem. I think I finally figured it out. We'll see. We'll see. I'm still kind of messing with it. My fingers are crossed, but I'm hoping I got it figured out. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the big camera. And I figured I'd give you guys a first look at this. Now, this is the first video look, okay? The guys on Discord, if you're on Discord, you already know about this helicopter. And I'm also going to explain myself because this is another raw. Oh, and I should, while I'm working on this, I'm going to try and bring up some pictures and show you in a little while. But this is another raw. So this is the raw 580. So now I have the raw 700, the 580, the 500, and the 420. So I've got them all. Now, part of the reason for that, you guys might be going, wait, is he crazy? He's lost his mind. But there really is a rhyme to the reason here. And that is that with the advent of Nexus right there, Nexus is in there. You see it right there. That's the Nexus right there. I want to make sure I have good working configs for some of the most mainstream helicopters. So getting a Nexus build and radio configuration for the raw 700, which I know it is deprecated and there's a new version coming out. I know that. However, there's still a lot of raw 700s out there, and I don't think they're going to go away tomorrow. And then as far as the raw 580 and the others, those are fairly new. Like the raw 580 was only introduced last year. The 500 is recent. The 420 comp is brand new. So my intention was to build working configs and put zip files in the Discord. And the only way I can do that is by flying the machine. And these are really too expensive to get loaners, right? I can't borrow somebody's helicopter. Not only that, I wouldn't want to borrow somebody's helicopter because if they don't build it right and then I crash it because they did something wrong in the build and I'm responsible for it. And I just don't like that. So I wanted to explain myself. If you guys go, wait a minute, he's been on a raw tear lately. And part of the reason for that is because I'm trying to get Nexus and radio configurations for some of the most popular helicopter airframes out there. And the honest other truth is in a 580 class, if I do the 580 raw, then I know it should be transferable to something like a Tron 580, for example, right? So that's the idea. But anyway, I've got the full suite of raws now. This one's brand new. I also I have another little segment I'm going to show you on these Scorpion motors. I do have something I want to show you there. I'll dig that out and give you some information, but there's a hot sale going on these right now. And this is the first time I've used a Scorpion in a helicopter. In fact, I think it's my first Scorpion motor. And this one also has a Scorpion ESC in there as well. So anyway, the raw 580, I built this and it took me about 24 hours from out of the box to ready to maiden. Between the build and setting up the Nexus, installing all the hardware, and this one's ready to go. And just for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, I know Fred actually caught this one. The raw 580 actually has a gloss paint job. So it's 700 and the 580 are gloss, and then the 500 and 420 are matte. Interesting, right? So anyway, it is an absolutely beautiful helicopter. I really do like SAB hardware. They really, SAB, they just make excellent kits. It is an absolutely stunning helicopter. Very bright colors, excellent color scheme. You know, when they first came out with the raw 580, I'm not going to lie, I was in tears almost. I almost cried. I was offended because of the color scheme they chose. I thought it was just god-awful. And I was really looking forward to a raw 580. I wanted one. And then to add insult to injury, I was told that they would have OEM color schemes, and it was months and months and months. We didn't see anything. They just had that horrid, it looked like a pastel Crayola box melted on the canopy. It was terrible. But anyway, they finally got back to their design chops and put out a color scheme that I can get behind. I can get behind that. And I can guarantee you this is going to be very bright in the sky. Big pop of white, big pop of orange. It's going to look fantastic. Anyway, I hope to fly this weekend and maiden it, get it up in the air. And normally when it comes to helicopters, I'll do a little bit of a short flight, just kind of hover box, make sure the fly barless is working, then get it on the ground, do an inspection. There's a lot of nuts and bolts on here. I like to give these a very thorough inspection, and then I'll put it up and fly it around some. So anyway, just a quick little heads up. That's what's going on with the RAW 580. And that'll be maidened hopefully this weekend, depending on the weather. Okay, that's that. We'll go back to the desktop and be on the lookout on the channel for a maiden flight on the RAW 580. Okay, I told you in the intro that I was going to get into something here on the RAW 700, and a little problem I had. I thought maybe possibly related to heat, but I really don't think so, because I got in the log after the fact and it just wasn't that hot because I wasn't doing that much. But I don't know what the deal is lately with me, but I seem to be having a terrible time with ESCs. So this, what happened, and Fred was there. Fred heard it. Dave heard it. We were out flying the RAW 700, and I took it up. I was flying it around. It was, I had two different flights where the same thing happened, but it went into what sounded like a low voltage mode. The sad part about it is these are not, this is a 12S ESC, 130 amp 12S. These are not cheap. So I'm really not sure what happened there, but I'm definitely not willing to risk a helicopter the size and scale of a RAW 700 on a potentially flaky ESC. So this one came out. The Hobby Wing came out. I don't know what the problem is. I just don't know. But I know it's not the batteries because I looked at the voltage in the log. It's not the fly barless because the fly barless logged everything and showed it to me. So I didn't see any hiccups in the fly barless, no alerts or warnings or anything like that. So I really just don't know what it is. The last thing I could think of was the ESC. The other goofy part is this came out of the Tron. So then I contacted Rob and I told Rob about it. And he said, you know, several people have had that same exact type of failure on a Platinum 130. He was aware of this issue with other folks, and including himself. So for that reason, I took it out and I put in a Scorpion. I put in a Scorpion ESC in the RAW. So I'm going to be remaidening the Scorpion. I'll be remaidening the RAW 700 soon. That one will go up in the air soon with the Scorpion, hopefully this weekend. But I did want to make you guys aware of those Hobby Wing 130s. I'm not trying to put them on blast. There's a big difference between this and that B6 Neo. Like the B6 Neo is a piece of junk. Don't use it. Don't trust your stuff to that thing. This one, I just don't know. But I can tell you that it seemed like it was the culprit because it didn't shut off. The motor kept spinning, but it went into low power mode, like a low voltage cutoff. You know, like ESCs when they'll go below a certain threshold, they'll reduce power. That's what it sounded like. But there was no reason for it. When I looked at the battery logs, the battery was never below like 3.9. And I really wasn't doing that much. I was just doing some pitch pumps. It wasn't much. And they weren't hard. They weren't super aggressive. It wasn't like I slammed the stick all the way forward and held it there and then all the way back down. I was just kind of, you know, goosing it a little bit. And that's when it went into that low voltage mode. So the helicopter certainly should be able to handle that. And then the log showed me the current, the high current mark was like 85 amps or something. It wasn't much. It was very low. So anyway, just a heads up on that. You know, I have a rule, and part of the reason I wanted to do this segment is I have a rule when it comes to flying. If it can go wrong on the ground, it will definitely go wrong in the air. So when I got it on the ground, I stopped what I was doing. Again, Fred was there, and we looked. You know, I got the logs open. I looked at the radio log, or sorry, I didn't have radio logs, but I looked at the Nexus log and tried to evaluate what I saw. I didn't see current issues. I didn't see a voltage cutout issue. So the answer was not presented to me in the logs. Initially, I thought maybe one of the batteries quit. So we put a different 12S battery pack in and flew that and had one good flight. And then the second flight on the new battery pack, it did the same thing. So I thought, well, it's not the battery, so I gotta go ahead and assume it's the ESC. So that's that. But you know, the moral of the story is when you're flying radio control, especially if you have the more expensive hardware, you know, the RAW's coming up in a little bit. But when you have the more expensive stuff, it's just not worth goofing around. You know, so if you see a problem, you definitely need to take action. Don't just assume it's going to go away. Do an investigation, try and figure it out, try and understand what's happening before you proceed. Yeah, William Wasim says need a higher amp ESC. Not really, man. I never went above like 80 amps. It wasn't even close. Like it wasn't even near the threshold. So that's it. Okay, that's it for the ESC. And oh, the one that went in was the Scorpion Tribunus. I think it's 130 amp 12S. I think that's what it is. So we'll put that one in. We'll see what it'll do. All right, RC3D. We're going to do RC3D. So this one, I got to give a little credit to Tim. I'm going to give Tim a shout out. Now, I've actually had this for a while. I've had this for a couple years, but I never even thought about it. I think the reason I never thought about it is because it's just become part of my kit. So I don't really think about this one, but it's a solder spool stand. So this is a 3D printed part. Now here's why this one's cool. You guys know what happens, right? Like if you use your solder spool like that, solder for those in the Empire, if you use your solder spool like that, and it's on your desk and you're trying to get some solder to work on a part, you know what ends up happening. You get your wires or whatever, it's lined up just perfect. You got your soldering iron, and you're ready to touch your part, and you go to pull the solder and it's not anywhere near, and then you have to unwrap it. So some time ago, I went out on the internet and I found this spool holder, and it's just got one nut that goes right there. It's one little nut right in there, and then on this side, and that holds it together. So here's what it looks like when you print it. I actually printed one for Dave because I took so Tim made a comment in Discord. He showed his. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I have one of those. So I posted a picture of mine, and then I told Dave about it, and I said, hey Dave, would you like one of these? He goes, yeah, I think I would like one of those. So here's what it looks like when you print it. So no supports necessary. It just prints just like that. You get one part and you just duplicate it. It's a mirror copy. They're identical. So that's how it prints. And then you simply flip it around. You put your spool right there. You snap it together, and it's keyed. See, the bottom is keyed. It's got a pin and a slot. It's really clever. This is the kind of design I can really get behind because it's very simple. And then your solder comes right out through the guide there on the bottom. So now when you're ready to solder, you just pull, and it works. And the last thing he did, which I also thought was super clever, there are indents on the bottom that allow for little rubber pads. So you can get these rubber pads on Amazon, and that stands on your desk, and now you've got a solder spool, and then when you're done, you finish doing, you just wind it back up, and I just fold it up like that so I don't lose it, and that's it. I'm ready to put it away. Isn't that clever? Nice little RC3D part. It's not for models per se, but if you're in this hobby, eventually you're going to solder something. So there you go. A nice little solder spool holder. And thanks to Tim for reminding me. I completely forgot about this. I've had this for a couple years. I just completely spaced it. Forgot about it. Okay. Oh, by the way, this one says it uses an M4 screw. That's not true. It's an M5. I think if you use an M4, it just went straight through. So an M5 fits in there perfect. Okay. Next up, I wanted to show you this one. If you guys, again, in the hobby, especially in helicopters, you're always measuring stuff. You got to have these millimeter measurements and stuff. So this one, I found this one, and this is designed for those the cloth tapes that the women use when they sew stuff and are making clothes, and those cloth tapes, you know what I'm talking about? I found this and I thought, man, that's really cool. It's a print and place device. So if you have one of those tapes, you put the metal end in there, and then you wind it up like that. It stores the tape. And then when you want to use it, you can just pull it out, lay it on your table. It's not sprung, so it makes it really handy if you're going to do work on the desk, right? You just put the cloth tape down, measure your part, and then when you're done, you just grab it and wind it back up. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. I need to get a cloth tape for it. I just printed it, and I don't own a cloth tape, so I have to order one. But I just made that a couple days ago, and I'm going to make one for my wife too, because I think she uses those. But anyway, there you go. A little cloth tape spool holder. 3D, it's print in place. You don't actually have to assemble it. It comes like this. The only thing you have to do when you get it is you have to break, if you look really closely, you can see the supports in there. You just have to break that free. You just kind of twist it and snap it free, and after that, you can wind it. It's print in place. Cool, right? RC3D, love this stuff. Love RC3D, man. That's one of my favorite segments. I love 3D printing. You can really get some cool stuff out of that. Okay. Next up is the Boxer Crush, and I thought I'd spend just a few minutes. I did the video, right? Did the video and had a good time. The video is fine. The radio is interesting. I do like the colors. I got to admit, I do like the white. The white and black kind of gives it that stormtrooper motif. So imagine if you had the white and black raw. That would be pretty cool, right? Because they would go together, man. This would go really cool with that. And I also did the Nexus helicopter setup, and just on a lark, I'm going to try and fly with this weekend. So I want to do a little bit of testing with my raw 580. I'm sure it'll work. I might have to tune a few things, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try it and see how it goes. But I did do a Nexus helicopter configuration on this radio. I love the AG01 gimbals. The only thing that I think I'm disappointed with on the Boxer are these switches right here. So this is a 2-position switch, and I just don't know why they didn't make it 3. I mean, I don't understand. I really don't understand why it's not a 3-position switch. It's one of those things that just kind of bothers me because on my current radio, these are both 3-position switches, and I actually use them. And it can't be a cost thing. So, and this one is too. The SD right there, that's also a 2-position. So that's 2, and these 2 are 3 positions. So this is one of those radios where I'd really like to like it because it is weird. I've always felt it was very strange how good this one feels in the hands. So, and then the other thing that for me that's important is I really would prefer for this to be a latching switch 2-position and for this to be a momentary over here. So a couple of guys have posted, you can probably switch the switches. They're soldered in with pins on each side. That's another thing I'd love to see them do is instead of soldering the switches in, to use a wire. So that if you want to move a switch to a different spot, it'd be simply disconnect the switch, unplug it, move it, plug it back in, you're done. I'd love to see that in the next iteration or next family of radios rather than having everything soldered in, because that way we can customize the radios to our needs. So rather than having a fixed latching switch on one side and a momentary switch on the other side, you can make it your own. So this is the radio that I really want to like, but I still grab my TX16S. And I think part of the reason for that is it's not touch, and I use that touch quite a bit. And I really don't like configuring the black and white personally. It's a personal thing. So just to be clear, personal thing. It's not, it may be fine for you, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But I personally like configuring the radio on the color screen much better. It does the job though. I mean, you can't fault them. Everything that you want to do, it's in there, right? You can change everything. So it's just one of those personal preference things. That's all it is. Just personal preference. That's all it is. It's fine. It's good radio. And oddly comfortable. I don't know what it is about this radio, but I like holding it. And the other thing that I really like about this radio is that they included the right stuff. You got the little stick protector, and that's really effective. That fits on the AG01s just right. Protects your pots up there and your switches right there. Kind of protects everything. I like that, man. That's a nice touch. Nice finishing touch. And it's not a 3D part either. This is an injected molded part. So it's a nice finished look. It would have been cool if they made this in the same color as this. That'd be another thing. They don't talk to me about these things though. They should contact me, man. I would help. I would tell them, hey, make the thing the same color or complementary to the radio. Maybe a different shade of white, like gray or something like that, right? And on the blue one, make it a different shade of blue or some complementary color like gray. That would have been cool. But they don't ask me, so I don't get to have that feedback. But we like stuff like that, man. We like things to be a little coordinated. I said the same thing about the Nexus aluminum plates, the aluminum covers they sell for the Nexus. I said, hey, are you making those in the raw colors, like the raw orange and yellow, the popular helicopter colors, the Tron green, are you using those? And they said, no, they stuck with their current CNC colors, which I thought, well, it's fine. People like upgrades. They like to change colors, but it would have been clever if they would have used the color palette from popular helicopters, right? That would have been smart. I think it would have been smart. But like I said, they don't ask me. So it is what it is. I'm going to check comments and then we'll get going. Ooh, Wasim Mata says he's got an Il Goblin on the way. Il Goblin Pro. Fancy. Rework FPV says, love you, man. True genius. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Freddie says, is this the Hobby Lobby channel? What are you talking about, man? Hobby Lobby? You crazy? Anybody been watching the Built Fast Guy, the 3D printing planes? Nope. I don't, I looked into 3D printing planes. I actually printed one and I didn't bother putting it together because I thought to myself, man, there's just no way. I know it can be done, but I'm just not going to invest my time and energy in it. It's not for me. I know it's certainly an interesting facet and the 3D printers are really good and some of the designs are fascinating, but I looked at it and I thought, man, just one rough landing and this thing's going to be problematic. So I just opted out. It's not for me. Maybe a glider, maybe a super light plane, maybe, but I'm not into it. What about the Jumper T15? You know, Jumper doesn't talk to me. I don't have a Jumper, so I don't even know what product numbers they use or what they have. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with my Radiomaster lineup. So they're the ones that work with me. So I work with them and I show their stuff. So that's it. That one seems interesting. Not sure the gimbals will be as good as AG1. Yeah, these AG01s are good. They're highly regarded. I know not everybody loves them, but they're highly regarded. I like them. I fly with them all the time. This is what I use on all my production stuff. So I like those AG01s. They feel good and they look good. And on this white shell, man, this whole thing looks really cool. It's a cool looking radio. I like it. And I looked at some of the other colors too. Like, I don't know about the hot pink. You know, that's probably not for me. I know there may be some people out there who, you know, are into purple and pink, whatever, you know, that's fine. But, you know, I tend to gravitate toward the more, I don't know, more basic colors. I say that, but I've got a neon RC video review sign over in the corner. It looks pink, doesn't it? That's kind of funny, but not for my radio. I'm just doing that to get attention. It's got to be bright to get attention. The Boxer has that OTX feel. Yes, it does. Johnny says it has the OTX feel. You're right about that. Because obviously on EdgeTX, you know, the graphic, the GUI, was where a lot of the change came in. So yes, you're right. It does really have that OTX feel, especially like the smaller, like I never bought the smaller ones, but like the QX7, I guess, isn't that one of the smaller ones that ran OpenTX on the black and white scheme for a while? I know the Tyrannus did, but the Tyrannus looked much different. That screen was like this. It was really wide, not maybe a little taller, a lot wider. So Tyrannus definitely looked different. Agree on the Radiomaster versus Jumper, just like the Boxer size with touchscreen. Yeah, I know. That's another comment I've seen out there. People are saying, hey, you know, would it be nice to have color? I'm not sure though. I think, and you know, I'll remind you, why isn't this thing, where's the brightness? Oh, there it is on the knob. I think one of the reasons people like these black and white screens, I really don't fly with these radios at the field much. I've used them, but I don't use them much. And I think one of the reasons people like them so much is because of the high contrast you get with the black and white screen. That I could see a benefit. I definitely could see a benefit out at the field if you wanted to do some programming. No question about that. So anyway, that's the Boxer. It is a weirdly comfortable radio. If you've never picked one of these up, try and borrow one. And you know, it's oddly comfortable. And it's Express LRS with 1 watt. It's hard not to like this radio. I should fly with it more. That's why I programmed a helicopter on it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to bring it out and try it. And the cool part is if you're smart about it, it doesn't matter if you bring this one or the TX16S, because if you're smart about it, and you do your channel mapping correctly, you can use both of them. So I can go from this one to the TX16S and back to this one without any changes to the fly barless or the receiver. I use the same binding phrase in both, and there's Freddie. Look at Fred standing his M2 up on one skid. Isn't that funny? Anyway, yeah, so you could go back and forth, and that's another reason I think that I haven't really gotten into Boxer, because I really don't want to I don't want to maintain 2 different radios. I did that for a long time, and I'm just now getting out of it. I really only want to maintain 1 radio, because I've done it. Like I have a helicopter radio. I've gone to the field of the helicopter, forgot the helicopter radio. I have the fixed wing radio, forgot the helicopter radio. That's why if you're smart about it and you plan it out with something like fly barless, you can set these up so they both work with the fly barless, and it doesn't matter which one you use. So just a thought. All right, let's see. It's the FPV Crew and less power consumption. My 6-year-old Marcos is begging to say hi. Hey, Marcos. Hi, Marcos. 6-year-old. That's cool. Get him flying. Okay, that's it on the Boxer. We can move on. Boxer Crush, nice little radio. And I do have an affiliate link. If you guys want to buy one for yourself, use my affiliate links. That's awesome. The channel gets a little kickback when you do that, so appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything extra if you do. All right, next up is the Q&A. So let's pop the Q&A up here. We'll bring the Blackboard up, and let's get going here. So this is My mouse is acting up. There we go. Okay. Sig Flyer, he says, I'm glad I'm not the only person experiencing slow mount and dismount, ejecting being the most annoying on the SD card on a Mac. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. I did that video today, and I don't know what it is with Mac and the file system. Like, In normal operations, the Mac file system's fine. It copies stuff around. It's plenty fast. I write videos out. The normal file system by itself is not a problem, but they do some weird stuff. Like in Windows, you no longer have to eject your SD card anymore. The reason you used to have to do that was because they used to use drive caching. And if you copied something to your SD card, Windows would say you're done, but the cache would still have content. So if you wrote a big file, Windows might cache a portion of that file to memory. And then if you unplug the SD card from the computer and it wasn't finished flushing the cache, then you'd have a corrupted file. That's why they used to do that. But they got away from that and they no longer really have that problem. So, or they made the cache a lot smaller. I don't know. But the point is they deprecated that eject function a long time ago. You don't have to eject on Windows. But on Mac, they stuck with it. And what's hyper annoying about it on a Mac is that it could be long after you did any operation on that card, you hit eject and it still takes forever to pop out. And it really is annoying. And then on top of that, they give you this stupid warning, you need to eject your SD card properly. You know what? Bite me. It's my computer. Operate around me. I just one of those really annoying things about Mac. But, the positives outweigh the negatives, so I live with it. But it is annoying. Let's see. I've tested formatting, partition size, and SD card to see if anything helps. Nothing really seems to be a complete answer. Well, the complete answer to me, and I know it's true because I've seen it so many times in production, is just use a small partition. Use a 500 meg, 1 gig partition. It mounts and unmounts faster. Still not perfect, but it's better. And then I think, somebody, it might have been this guy, he might have left an additional section of the comment, or one other guy did. He said, well, I don't think partition size, I don't plug and unplug or mount and dismount enough for it to matter, so I'm not going to change my partition size. That's fine, man. Whatever makes you happy. I plug in all the time. So for me, 30 seconds every single time gets kind of annoying. So it's just one of the reasons I do it. But, your money, your hobby, do your thing. All right, James Worth says, of course, this comes out this is what I was talking about earlier, remember? So the Boxer Crush comes out, and he goes, right after I purchased a regular Boxer. That's a bummer, man. I feel bad about that. But, what can you do? It's just the way, it's the nature of things. Sell it, sell it. Get it out there, get it up for sale. Maybe make a little bit of money back on it, and you can get yourself an upgraded Boxer Crush. The good news is they're not hateful expensive. Mike says, thanks for that. I told him he is a YouTuber now. He said, let's go fly. Good, man. Go fly something. Get him out there. Get the little guy out there, Marcos. Go fly. Tell Dad you want to go fly, Marcos. Say, Dad, I want to fly. Ask him to look at the RC Video Reviews wireless trainer setup. Get him a nice little trainer like a Crash Test Hobby Albatross and get him out there flying. And by the way, a Boxer makes a great first radio for little hands. So does the TX12, by the way. Just throwing that out there. Okay. All right. Let's see. What's next here? Stover the Tech. Can this be used in a plane using a Tailor-on mix such as an F-22? This was actually a good question. And I answered it. I left my answer in because it's a little complicated. The question was related to the A3 Super 4, and he basically said, hey, can this be used in a plane that's got a Tailor-on mix like an F-22? So you mix your tail with your aileron, and they work together to accelerate the roll or other maneuvers, right, to help make it a little more aggressive. And the answer to this question is you got to be really careful how you word the response on this one. So the response is that the stabilizer, the A3 Super 4 has 5 outputs, and you can map those 5 outputs however you want. So if I want to do a mix, let's say I'm going to mix aileron 1 with elevator 1 and aileron 2 with elevator 2. When I do that, the A3 Super 4 will output that directly. It gives me very direct control. So if I do that mix on my radio, it will output corresponding signals to the appropriate channels coming out of the gyro, okay? However, what it won't do, there are fixed profiles in the gyro for stabilization purposes. So what that means is that if the gyro detects that it's not pitch level, like the nose is up, then it will only issue a correction out the aileron signals, right? And you have a limited number of profiles you can select from. You can do a standard airplane, you can do a wing, and you can do a V-tail. So in a V-tail, it will recognize, hey, this is a rudder and an elevator. In that case, if it wants to do a pitch correction to nose up, it will issue a command for elevator up on both elevator channels, which are also rudder channels. When it issues a yaw command or correction, it will manipulate both rudders to move in the same direction. Hopefully that makes sense. The real question, and you have to differentiate between the output function from the sticks and the stabilize function from the gyro. That's the differentiator here. Okay, so you could set it up as long as you do your mixing on your radio to do tailerons. However, the stabilizer will not manipulate the tailerons together. It will either do a pitch correction for elevator, which is fine. That will still work. It's just not going to be as aggressive. And it will also issue roll corrections to the ailerons, but it won't do a taileron correction where it mixes the elevator and aileron together, at least as far as I know. That's my current view on the A3 Super 4. That was a super tricky question. That was a good one. Good question, but that's the way it'll work. Let's see. Albert says, now that you've flown the laser and the ARS 67, I get this one quite a bit. And I remember I told you guys I was going to do groupings, right? So the Group A and Group B, right? I would consider the ARS 300 67-inch and the laser 67-inch both Group A planes. Those two planes are among the best I've ever flown. And you guys know I've flown a lot of planes, and I personally believe that the ARS 67-inch and the laser 67-inch are among the best. They are two of the best airplanes I've ever laid my hands on. They fly amazingly well. They look great in the sky. They've got spectacular 3D capabilities. I don't fight with them while I'm flying. They do all the maneuvers that I know how to do. They just react correctly. I love them. They're really good planes. I can tell you right now, there are a limited number of models that if I crashed and destroyed that I would immediately replace. Those two are in that list. If I crashed either one of those, I would immediately go home, get on Extreme Flight, and I'd order a replacement without even thinking about it. I wouldn't even bat an eyelid about it. So Albert has a good eye because he picked out, hey, ARS or the laser. And I'm telling you, they're both good. If you haven't watched that video, the first look on the ARS 300, go look at it. The plane flies just amazing, and it looks really good in the sky too. Although I would give the nod to the laser in the looks department. It's just a little bit brighter. That white and red and blue scheme is really bright, really, really bright. All right, Keela says, what receiver are you using in the CRS F video for the A3 Super 4? In this particular video, I was using a Happy Model EPW6. You guys, EPW6 to me is one of the best kept secrets in all of radio control. I use them all the time. And a lot of times if I'm doing a review video like an FMS foamy or something, I stick an EPW6 in there. I keep them in my stash. If I have less than 5 EPW6s in my stash, I get twitchy and I order another one. They're $13. So they're super cheap. They're easy to configure. They work with Express LRS. I've been using them on so many different airplanes and they're just fantastic. I love them. They're really good little receivers. $13, you can't beat it. It's one of the reasons I freaking love Express LRS and open source, because $13, man. $13. It's a 6-channel PWM receiver. It outputs S-Bus, outputs CRSF. I get VBAT, and I get I get a RF connectivity that's akin to a Pitbull with Lockjaw, and it supports binding phrases. Give me a break. It's one of the best things to happen in RC in a long time. And I would include the ER4 in that little category as well. It's very similar. The ER4 is very similar. In fact, the nice thing about the ER4 is you don't even have to solder that one. That comes pre-assembled. So you lose 2 channels, but it's assembled. So it's really good. The EPW6 is just, if you haven't investigated the EPW6, all I can say is try it. It's one of my favorite little weapons on my RC arsenal. EPW6 by Happy Model. BC Flyer says Flash Junkie. So yeah, talking about the upgrade rules, I've gone back and forth, but it just made me chuckle. You know, this is kind of a funny comment because I think aside the developers, obviously those guys, they flash more than anybody because they have to, right? They're always testing stuff. So the developers are always doing something, but BC Flyer's like, yep, Flash Junkie. Yeah, I know. I am. I flash a lot. And that also goes back to that prior comment about mounting the SD card in Mac. You know, difference in 30 seconds and 10 seconds is meaningful to me with the amount of time I spend plugging radios in and unplugging them. It gets crazy sometimes. So anyway, yeah, Flash Junkie, no doubt about it. But, you know, it's how you learn. This was one of my favorite comments. This is Justin Alfred. This is the I'm so screwed, catastrophic failure. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I watched that video again the other day. It's actually pretty good. So if you have to recover your Radiomaster radio, you do something really bad, relax. Hopefully you have a backup. I covered that in the SD card rules. So if you have a backup, you're going to be fine. So don't worry about it. Back up your radio, man. Get your SD card, back it up, and you can act with impunity. You can do whatever you want as long as you have a backup. If you have a backup, you can do whatever you want. You'll be able to recover it. No problem. Even if you brick a firmware update, you can still recover it. And I've got a video on how to do that too. So yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm glad to be able to help. These make me smile because this means somebody was in a bad situation and my video material was able to help them out. So I always like those kinds of comments. All right, that wraps it up for the Q&A. Let's get back to the desktop and we'll get into what's coming up. I'm going to check questions too, see if there's anything else I need to address before we get going. Man, that Wasim Mata says, I got an Il Goblin Pro on the way, man. That's a nice helicopter, dude. That's not cheap either. He spent some coin on that. That's a good one. I hope you get on our Discord and share pictures of it. I hope you share, man. Get on our Discord and show us the build. Get in the build log and put pictures up. I want to see it. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, let's see. I don't think there's anything else. Got an apprentice in the buddy box for him. He's also getting sim time. Good. Get him on that sim, man. That's good. And don't forget to check out that Crash Test Hobby Albatross. The reason you get him on that Crash Test Hobby Albatross, because if you get him on that, you can turn him loose and let him fly it. Have no fear. If he crashes it, so what? Little bit of glue, new prop, you're back in the air. It's what I taught my son to fly on, and he did great with it. So Crash Test Hobby Albatross, those are great trainers, great first airplanes for young people. Really, really good. Very visible, very graceful, easy to land, easy to fly, easy to see, very docile, well-mannered airplanes. I don't really care for the Apprentice that much. Honestly, I think I fight with the Apprentice. I don't like its ground handling. It flies okay, I guess, but I like the Crash Test Hobby Albatross. Check it out. It's cheap. All right, what's coming up? So let's talk about what's coming up. I'll be flying this weekend. I don't know yet if Fred is going or if Dave is going. What I can tell you guys is that Mr. Freddy has himself an OMP M4 now, and he's got a Nexus. So he's going to be working on that configuration. I know he's watching my videos, and he'll get set up on those. So hopefully he'll get that going. And there's a secret behind why I get Fred involved in the Nexus. First off, if you guys don't know, it was Fred who dragged me kicking and screaming into helis in the first place. So I owe him, right? That's point number one. Point number two is, if you didn't know, Freddie is like he's like our own personal Rain Man. You remember Dustin Hoffman in the movie Rain Man? That's Freddie. Freddie's like our Rain Man. So once he understands it and you say, hey, Fred, when I was flying my helicopter, I moved my stick and it did XYZ and I wanted to do ZYX. What do? He'll say, go to this page, go to that thing, change it from 3 to 4. That should solve your problem. And lo and behold, it works. So that's my secret, my secret mission is to get Freddie involved in the Nexus, because then he'll learn. And if I have questions, I can get some help from Fred. See, I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested. That's the thing. I'm not crazy. All right. So that's it. Fred's getting his Nexus worked out. We're going to get him up and flying on that OMP M4 and get him on a Nexus. And I'm also working a little strategy to get Dave into a Nexus too. We're working on it. Although Dave's not going to be a configuration guy. Dave's more of like a set and forget kind of guy. So he doesn't like to tinker with it. But we're going to try and get him set up on a Nexus as well. And the reason for that, the rationale behind getting the RCVR crew on the Nexus is that we can help each other. So, if he's flying an Icon and I don't have an Icon anymore, then I can't very well help him, because I don't have an Icon where I can go do testing, So that's that. We're gonna get Fred and Dave flying on Nexus. And Wasim Mata says he'll send pictures of his Il Goblin on the Discord. I hope so, man. I want to see it. Get in the Discord. I want to see it go, and put your build log in there. Share the build. Share pictures. We like to see that stuff. So okay. Anyway, so that's coming up. I don't think we're going to be doing any field filming this week. We don't have that going on. However, I also have a new sponsor, and the new sponsor is supposed to be sending me some hardware. So I expect the hardware. I got to write and see what's going on. But the last communications we had, they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send you this. We're going to send you this. So I expect the hardware to come in soon, but I haven't heard anything since then. So we'll work on that a little bit, and hopefully we'll get some new hardware videos going. And I'm also going to continue work on the point videos for Nexus. My intention is to build up a Nexus reference library so that if you're out there working on Nexus, you can get a little help on these little point solutions. So, and we still have the PID tuning thing to do. I told you we're going to do it. I'm still committed to it. We're just not there yet. We're not there yet. You're just going to have to hang tight. So that's about it in terms of what's coming up. We're going to see some more Nexus material. Hopefully the hardware from the sponsor will come in. Maybe, depending on who gets to fly when, we might get a little more flight footage. And, you know, of course, we'll get the airplanes back out again soon, but I'm still doing a lot of work on tuning up these Nexus helicopters and making them fly right. And then I'm going to close with one last little thing. If you're not aware, as a result of buying the RAW 580, I decided to put my Tron 5.5 up for sale. I've got it listed in my Discord. I just reduced the price. It is a ready to fly, ready to go. So if you've ever wanted a 5.5 size helicopter, this one's ready to go. I'll even give you the YAML file for it. Literally, if you have a 4-in-1, you could bind and fly that helicopter. It is in perfect condition. It's in my Discord. If you're interested, check it out. And I'm willing to ship that within the US. So if you're in the US and you need it to be shipped, I can handle that. Okay, so it'll be price plus actual shipping to your address. So just keep that in mind. It's in the Discord if you're interested. I just lowered the price $200. So I've got it out there. Go check out the Discord and you'll see what's going on there. It's a very nice setup, but I really just don't need it now that I have the RAW 580. All right, guys, that wraps up the Pilot Jam for the 26th of July. I have one last little announcement to make, and that's that there will be no Pilot Jam next week. Next Friday, I am going to be taking the final weekend of, my wife's a teacher, so she's going to be going back to school, and she asked if we could do one more weekend out together, so we're going to do it. We're going to go out next weekend. I'll be out of pocket, and I'll be returning on Sunday, but no Pilot Jam on Friday and no material on Saturday, Sunday. I'll be out of pocket. So I'll be back the week after, and that should pretty much end the summer for us in terms of being out. I know I said that last time, but I'm not really taking vacation time for this. We're just leaving Friday after work, and we're going to be doing spending a weekend together. So that's that. No Pilot Jam next week, but we'll get right back to it the week after. Well, that wraps it up for tonight. I've been watching the stats on the live stream, and the video stream looks like it's been really good so far. Excellent connection. Hopefully, this new 4K fiber internet uplink is going to work out really well for the channel. It sure feels like it did a good job tonight. So that'll wrap up the Pilot Jam for the 26th. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening and an even better weekend. Make sure you get out there and fly something. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you know new videos hit the channel. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. Go fly something.